Good evening. It's 6:02 p.m. on Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. I'm going to read the script announcing the start of executive session under ORS 192.6602D. The Gladstone City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Recognized representatives of the news media and council-authorized staff members may attend the executive session. All other persons must leave the room and are respectfully requested to do so now. There's no one else in the room. Members of the media are specifically directed not to report on the topics discussed in the deliberations that occurred during the executive session. City councilors are similarly reminded not to discuss executive session topics and deliberations with any third party. This includes, without limitation, family members, other appointed officials, for example, planning commission members, library board members, etc., city staff and volunteers, members of the public, and members of the media. The presence of the media while the city's legal counsel is discussing matters with the council is not intended to, nor does it waive the attorney-client privilege that attaches to these communications and any related documentation. If a final decision on any matter is necessary, the council will make that decision when it is in a regular session. Thank you very much. Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Gladstone City Council for Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. It's 6:30 p.m. The City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body, to the extent reasonably possible, to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. The Zoom instructions are on the agenda to tonight's meeting. If members of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, either virtually or in person, they were to have emailed their comments or their request to speak to the city recorder prior to noon today. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. City Council will also have Gladstone City event announcements during the meeting and business from the audience at the end of the meeting. To speak during either time, virtually or in person, again, you should have emailed the city recorder prior to noon today with your name, topic of discussion, and city of residence, and individuals intending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting. Comments, again, are limited to 3 minutes. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Huckabee. Present. Councillor Mitchell. Here. Councillor Blaug. Present. Councillor Labonte. Councillor Corbett.
Here.
Councillor Garlington.
Present.
Mayor Milch.
Present. Please stand for the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda for tonight's meeting, Administrator Betts?
I have none, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll begin with our consent agenda. It includes 7 items: approval of the July 8th, 2025 regular minutes, approval of June bank balances, budget report for the period ending 6/30/2025, approval of June check register, legal costs for May and June 2025, and department head monthly reports for July 25. Also, Public Works vehicle replacement, consider approval to purchase a 2025 F550 4x4 flatbed dump bed utility truck for the Public Works Department. Does any member of the council want to pull any item from the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councillor Huckabee. Is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Councillor Blaug. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the consent agenda is approved unanimously by a vote of 6-0. Next on our agenda is correspondence. We always have this on our agenda. We usually don't get correspondence, or we don't say that there's any correspondence, but I want to say that during the summer, when we've had the public involved in what we're going to do with the new library, we've had our community festival, we've had a lot of things going on. We do get letters. We do get correspondence. Sometimes it's addressed to me as the mayor, and I forward it to to staff for a staff response. Sometimes I reply myself, and sometimes those letters are shared with the whole council. And even if we don't have it on our agenda immediately, it's something that will inform us as we go forward and have the time to make some decisions on that matter. So I just wanted to let people know we get letters and we appreciate them. We don't always read them or respond to them in a meeting, but they're there. Next item is our Gladstone City event announcements. Has anyone requested to speak for that?
Yes, we have two. First is Bob Everett.
All right, Bob, you can come forward.
Good evening. Good Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully, you've all stayed cool. It's been a warm day, that's for sure. And I'll be looking forward to cooler weather. I won't take long. I'm just going to talk about the festival just a little bit. I think it went over very well this year. I know there was some pushback a little bit about the shortened time and that it wasn't 2 days, but I can tell you that for our group, that was a blessing. It certainly cut down the amount of time that we worked in the long days. And also, I spoke to most of the vendors, and I will say they loved it. About 90% of them enjoy just having 1 day. In years past, on Friday, they often complained that there was not really enough business for them to be there. So for them, it worked out really well. All of them said how much they enjoyed the festival, how much really that they did very well, and we had expressed sort of a thought that it won't happen. We're not sure how it will proceed in the future. We have been, Bryce and I have been up here stating that. I'm a little more optimistic now. I have heard a little feedback from some individuals that maybe we can work out something and move forward. So that's music to my ears, that's for sure. As my wife told me, what would you do if you didn't do that? At least part of it. So, and I agree, it's in my blood. So anyway, but we had a good turnout on Saturday. I thought the parade went well. The grand marshals were outstanding. Egotistically, I say. So, but everything else seemed to flow along very well. That's about it for me. We are not going to have, despite my protestations, we're not having bingo in September. Club sort of agreed they wanted to take a little time off. So October will be our first bingo, and we'll go from there a little bit too. So if you have any questions or anything else, I'm certainly here to answer them. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you to the city. I also want to thank the city for what they do. It's always greatly appreciated. And I always enjoy working with them, that's for sure. And that went very, very smooth this year. There's no doubt about it.
Well, thanks again to you and to Rotary and for updating us on the no bingo in September, but it will be in October. And as I say, we are hearing from community members too, wanting to, expressing the value of the festival to them. So they always express their appreciation to Rotary for taking this on a decade or so ago and keeping it going, and appreciation to the individuals who've tweaked things from year to year, made little changes, and have gotten the kind of positive feedback to know that you're moving in the right direction. And we'll try to take all of that information and institutional knowledge, as we see where it goes forward.
I will say that we, Rotary, our club has a evening meal once a month at a place around Oak Grove, Gladstone, around there. And it's 2 weeks from this Thursday, we're going to have an evening, and we are inviting a number of people who have expressed an interest to help out with the festival in some sort of way. And maybe from that aspect, we can move forward, and anybody is welcome, and they can contact me and or our president, Brandon Smythe, as to the location and the timing for that, because we'd welcome anybody to come and
Great.
talk about the festival.
Transitions are always a little bit challenging, and I'm glad you're so cooperative in helping that happen.
All right.
Thanks, Bob. Next, you have
Ralph Mateel.
This ties in pretty well, actually.
you have to push the button to get the mic back on. Okay, Ralph.
All right. So Mayor Milch, council and city staff, thanks for the time. I've already sent a note to the council regarding the thoughts I'll be sharing. So tonight will be a more abbreviated version. So as you know, 2 council meetings in a row, the Rotary has stated their intentions of transitioning out of running the yearly August Community Festival. I'd like to emphasize the importance of the Community Festival to our city and ask the city to seriously consider taking it over. There are not many events that directly touch 2 of the 5 council goals like the annual Community Festival. Specifically, over on your wall there, economic development and then communications and belonging. I can't think of a better venue to apply your principles and advance your efforts in the Community Festival. There are certainly risks, and I think it's prudent to commit to taking this task on as soon as possible to minimize the risks. I'm of the opinion that number 1, the city should take on the management of the festival and make the commitment immediately. Number 2, more importantly, the council should embrace the transition and commit to and provide the necessary resources so city staff doesn't dread the idea of taking it over. And number 3, if the city leadership decides that they are not or cannot take over the festival, I'd like to see that decision made immediately as well. Delaying the decision would both jeopardize the success if the city decided to take over or quite likely kill the chance of another entity taking it over if it didn't get enough time. So you may be thinking, well, shoot, we're a year out. Why do we need to think of commit now? So can't we wait until the first of the year? Well, I would say no, especially not in a transition year. In the July meeting, Mayor, you said you voiced your optimism and stated that Gladstone were recreating, reforming new opportunities for teenagers, for families, and for young children. I think the Community Festival does that. So I'd like to see the city decide as soon as possible to take on the management of the festival. I understand this is a big ask, but I believe it's an important part of our community. And I'd like to close with one final thought. City leadership has done a remarkable job creating and managing the city budget, primarily because Jackie and her team has been hyper-focused on managing and holding themselves accountable for city expenses. So I'm hopeful that when you're deciding the future of the city's involvement, you don't fall into the trap of looking at it as strictly a profit or a loss in dollars. In other words, the value of the festival is more than just immediate dollars in profit and loss. The value is in the long-term impact on livability in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. And Jackie, do you want to just say briefly that we have already begun discussions? You want to share a little?
Yeah, I could do that. I did meet with Bob Everett on Friday to let him know and to reassure him and Rotary that the city is going to pick up the festival. We are going to schedule a transition meeting in September to give a little bit of time for Rotary to take a break. So we will have internal management as part of that transition team with Rotary. And I think that we all agree the value that it brings to the community. And I know that we do have to start early for that. So those conversations are already happening.
Very good. Yeah, I spoke to a neighbor who happens to be one of the vendor sponsors. And she told me that around November is when they start, getting committed for the following year. So Ralph is right. It's not something we can put off until January. And I'm glad that you are already thinking in this terms and getting staff thinking in this term.
Yeah, and also remember that next year is the 250th birthday of the nation. And so I think that there would be a good opportunity to maybe emphasize that as part of the festival.
Very good. All right, thank you. Any more city event
No.
related announcements? Okay, so we'll move on to our regular agenda, which will include consideration of an ordinance to annex properties on Kirkwood Road into the city of Gladstone, a professional services contract with Brown and Caldwell for National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, permit renewal application, and stormwater support services. 2025 to 2027 collective bargaining agreement between the city of Gladstone and AFSCME Local 350-03. And then we will adjourn to the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and approve minutes of the June 24th meeting, followed by an amending a resolution that we adopted earlier regarding the plan designation for the Gladstone Urban Renewal District. And then we'll come back for the regular, into the regular city council for a Clackamas County Coordinating Committee C4 retreat debriefing. So let's begin with item 9, ordinance 1542. Heather Austin, our planner, is here tonight and will help with the presentation of that item.
Thank you, Mayor Milch. And I think you have the legislative script that we'll read for this because we'll be passing an ordinance if
Okay.
successful. Thank you.
All right, I will go from the script. The public hearing on ordinance 1542 approving the annexation of the properties addressed as 17560 and 1580 into the Gladstone city limits is called to order. The proposed amendments would do what I say, annex those properties into the city. This is a little different. It's kind of not a regular land use hearing with all the text numbers and all the rest, kind of a hybrid. And so I'm ad-libbing a little bit. So as with most hearings, however, the order of business we will follow in conducting this hearing will be a presentation of staff report, entry of correspondence, if any, into the record, public testimony, additional staff comments, questions from the city council. Then we'll close the hearing and no further testimony from the audience. And then the council will discuss and make a decision. Any interested persons, this is regarding testimony, any interested person may present testimony concerning the proposed amendments. The public hearing is your opportunity to comment on the proposal before the city makes a decision. We want to hear what you have to say, and we want you to give us your point of view. Help us to understand why you've drawn your conclusion and how it relates to the proposal. Public testimony for this hearing will be called for in 3 groups: testimony in favor of the proposal, testimony opposed to the proposal, and neutral testimony. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of the testimony forms and submit it to the city recorder. I'll recognize those persons wishing to speak, and any questions should be addressed through me. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record, as this hearing will be recorded. If you are participating online, click the raise hand button at the appropriate time and wait to be recognized. If you are participating via telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand at the appropriate time and wait to be recognized. Now, at this time, I would like to ask members of the City Council if they are abstaining from this matter or need to declare any conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature of the conflict of interest and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. So I'll start down at my right with Councilor Huckabee.
Participating, no conflict.
Councilor Mitchell,
Participate, no conflict.
Councilor Blount,
Participating, no conflict.
Councilor Corbett,
Participating, no conflict.
Councilor Garlington.
Participating, no conflict.
And this is Mayor Milch. I will be participating and have no conflict either. So now we reach the time, I believe, where we Get our staff report. Okay, back to you, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor Milch. I apologize for the awkwardness of that. The annexation does sort of walk the line between legislative and quasi judicial because it is specific to certain properties, but you're also passing an ordinance to expand the city's boundaries. So probably something I could have coordinated with City Attorney Jacobs prior, but did not. So apologies for that. But now we've covered our bases. So I think that's a good thing. Okay, as Mayor Milch noted, we're here tonight to talk about the potential annexation of 3 properties on Kirkwood Road. They're identified in red on the map there in front of you. Let's see, I'm going to turn this on and then push the button as your city recorder directed. Oh, next slide, please. Excuse me. The 3 properties shown here are being proposed for annexation for the purpose of connecting to public sanitary sewer service. All 3 are currently on septic system and are located within Clackamas County unincorporated area. Next slide, please. The zoning of the properties is currently R10 in the county, which is the residential zoning district. Upon annexation to Gladstone, they would be R7.2, which is consistent with our comprehensive plan that identifies these properties for low density residential. The properties all have single unit households on them, which is permitted in that zoning district. All utilities would remain the same upon connection, with the exception of sanitary sewer service, which would be what the properties are looking to acquire upon annexation. The public notice was sent to all property owners within 250 feet of the site, as well as all affected agencies. And a little different for an annexation as a metro requirement was to post notice on the site as well. So prior to the Planning Commission hearing, the first evidentiary hearing, we posted public notice on the site as well. Oh, nice. So the recommendation this evening that comes from the Planning Commission via the planning staff report is approval of the annexation of the 3 parcels subject to conditions of approval. And it's a little nuanced because the 2 properties at 17560 and 17580 Kirkwood Road are meeting all of the city's standards and are ready for annexation at this time and would be subject to conditions of approval 1 through 6 and 8 through 12. And then 17620 Kirkwood Road would be eligible for annexation upon compliance with condition of approval 7, and then would still be subject to 1 through 6 and 8 through 12. And I'm going to go into detail on that. So don't worry too much about that. I just am listing the other recommended conditions of approval so that it's clear that the next steps include annexing into the Water Environment Services Tri-City Service District. That's required of any properties in this area. These properties would be withdrawn from North Clackamas Parks and from the consolidated Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District so that they'd be provided service from Gladstone for parks and for police. Annexation of these properties applies the R7.2 zoning designation, which is consistent with our comprehensive plan. And the annexation does not include Kirkwood Road, which will remain a county road. So the applicant's submittal did show that, but our Public Works Department reviewed and determined that we did not want to annex the portion of Kirkwood Road at this time. So that legal description will be updated. The 2 properties at 17560 and 17580, they are currently meeting all of the city's dimensional and nuisance requirements that are in the municipal code. So these 2 properties are ready for annexation into the city. The way we've worded the ordinance that's before you this evening is to allow these 2 properties to move forward with annexation to the city and then to have a second process for the property at 17620 to be able to come back through the ordinance procedure at this body if and when they meet the criteria, and give a 2-year limit of time to do that, which is consistent with all of our other land use timeline approvals.
So Heather,
Yes.
if those conditions aren't met for a period of time,
Yes.
do we as a council need to vote on that again, or will approval already have been given just subject to meeting that? And then you can report to us that the criteria has been met.
If the criteria are met, they will come to Gladstone Police Department for sign off and to Gladstone Planning because we both have parts of the municipal code not being met. And if we determine that those are being met, we will come back to this body with an ordinance, because to be able to move it forward through Metro and through the State Department of Revenue, we need to have an ordinance that says you are approved for annexation into the city of Gladstone.
Very good. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
If that doesn't happen in 2 years, it goes away. We won't come back to you. They'll have to start over. So that brings us to condition of approval number 7, 17620 Kirkwood Road. So we'd be looking for them to meet the dimensional standards. And the reason I brought in this aerial photo from Clackamas County mapping is to show that there are a couple of connex structures. I think well, you're all looking at your screen. Thank you, Tammy. In the front corner, yes, that are in the front yard setback and the side yard setback. So this property is subject to our 20-foot front yard setback, our 5-foot side, and our 15-foot rear. So there would be the front yard issues and then potentially a side yard in the rear of the property that we'd want to make sure are meeting all the setback requirements. And then in addition, our maximum width of driveway is 36 feet, which I think is met once the connex structures are removed. So I think that can be something that can be easily achievable. The police department also has determined that the additional junk removal and the nuisance weeds in the backyard in particular needs to be addressed before it would be eligible for bringing into the city limits. And then we did have the Gladstone Police Department submit pictures yesterday so that we have a clear view of what's happening current time. There has been work that's been done on the property, but we still need to see the removal of the connex structures and the cleanup of the backyard as well before we can approve that to be brought into the city limits. So with that, the final conditions are related to the installation of the sewer line. Construction plans will be needed. Once those are approved by the city's Public Works Department, a pre-construction conference would happen with the city's utility manager and Public Works manager, and then the appropriate permits would be issued, as well as then once the permits are issued, there'll be system development charge for the connection to the public sanitary line. And then when it's all complete, the city will have the applicant submit an as-built submittal. So we'll have record on our GIS mapping of where the installation has occurred. So I did provide a sample motion. We are looking to approve ordinance 1542, which would allow the annexation of 17560 and 17580 Kirkwood Road at this time. And then the potential for 17620 to come back in the future once they've demonstrated compliance with condition number 7. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here this evening as well.
Okay, so when I read when I started reading the script, I only read the addresses of the two that we perhaps could actually approve for annexation tonight. I did not read the address of the third property, and I was going to try to say maybe I did that wrong, but I guess in this sense, I really did it right, because the only action we could legally take tonight would be for the two that can meet the conditions 1 through 6 and 8 through 12.
That is the recommendation from staff, that we would move forward with those two and then have a process for 17620 to move forward once they've met the criteria.
All right, we've had the staff report. Are there any questions just for clarification from council members regarding what's presented by staff? Councilor Garlington.
So I'm looking at page 9-53, and I'm not understanding how it is that that property can be used for the sewer, and how that property can be used for the lines, but we're not letting them.
Yes.
So just clear up for me how that can be used,
Yes.
but not be.
That's a
okay.
great question. So
Okay.
if the property that's between the properties coming in and the city limits is not being annexed in, they can still record an easement, and there can still be a utility line that runs underneath the ground in a utility easement that is to the benefit of the property owners who are coming in. So we did go through that with our public works department to make sure they would accept an easement that's not within the city for those lines to run through.
But if they're on a septic tank of some sort or a leach field back there,
Yep, they'll have to approve the easement in the proper place. The engineering plans will have to be approved that it doesn't affect it.
because we don't want to run a bunch of lines into a field that's being used, and now we're going to have problems with the people that live behind them.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yes, that will,
And that is on the homeowners?
the properties that are coming into the city are negotiating the easement amongst themselves. And that's not the city's requirement to do that, because if they're unable to get the proper easements, but they still annex into the city, they could potentially bring the line up Kirkwood. We know there are potential issues with bedrock and things, but there's other ways to do that. So if they want to go the route proposed, they will have to acquire the easements.
And the easement would be required in order to finish the permitting for the work to be done.
Right. The city would require the easement to be in place before the lines can be installed.
Okay.
This was one of the more complex issues as the Planning Commission was considering this. So Silas, do you have anything to add as far as the choice of routes for the sewer pipes? Because that was some other questions that had come up in Planning Commission.
I really don't have anything to add. As Heather stated, we know that Kirkwood has more rock issues in it. So the second proposed of using the backyards seems like they have a little bit more gravity on their side. And there's a connection already existing, I think, that goes up partial way from Ridgewood Drive. So
This is part of the reason when we do annexations, we require it to be properties that are, not far removed from current city limits, but, that it is possible to connect to something that is existing. And this issue has been researched enough to know that this is the preferred way to do it. All right, we will open it up for public. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Huckabee.
Thank you. I have a couple clarifying questions because it's confusing to me as well. So 17666, that they are the ones who are going to provide, because that's on their property, permission to put that in.
Yes, and
Okay.
the applicant who can speak to this as well is in communication with that property owner as well, where the line is located, and has spoken to them about the appropriate easements as well.
Okay, and we're also going to be interrupting property on 7625?
I believe so, yes. Well, I don't know that we'll be interrupting. If we can prove that the line goes through there adequately and goes on to 17666, then we won't need to do anything with 7625 because it's already there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
This is why all that GIS stuff is so important, because now finally we know where these lines are. And if you
Yes.
want to add something and you know where an existing line is, it's a lot easier than guessing or
Well,
just taking someone's word for it.
That's definitely true. And then we do run into the situation quite often where it maybe shows up, but we don't know for sure. So then the Public Works Department often has the lines scoped to make sure that they're appropriate as well for the use.
Very good. All right, I think it's time for us to open the public hearing in case there are anybody here in the audience who wants to provide testimony. So as I indicated, public testimony would be people who are in favor, people who are opposed, and then neutral testimony. So did we have anyone request to provide testimony?
We've not received any requests, but the applicant is here.
All right. You've had an opportunity to present this to the Planning Commission. Would either of the applicants like to make any statement tonight just to help us?
Would you like it?
I think we have enough information, and since, planning staff has made a recommendation, Planning Commission has concurred with that recommendation and gone over a lot of, the complicated issues. I think what we finally have tonight with our clarifying questions, which address some of the same issue, is a pretty clear direction of where to go. So,
I have a couple of small questions.
okay, all right, come forward, identify yourself and let us know which property you live at.
I'm Annalise Kiefer.
Oh, push the button, please, to there.
Oh, I'm Annalise Kiefer. I, with my husband Todd, live at 17560, the end of the line.
Okay.
And one of my thoughts is knowing that the one property still has those two Connex units that need to be moved to meet specs. Once they are able to get to that point, what kind of timeline? Because I know that we're looking at, in terms of construction now, spring even at this point. I just want to make sure that they're not going to be including in because they've been with us the whole process and have also paid a lot of money. The owner is a senior citizen that's low income. I just want to make sure there aren't going to be initial financial hurdles for her to be able to do this, because I know her septic system is problematic and this is a big deal for her. So I don't know if they are not included in this first round of approvals for whatever reason, are they going to be burdened with additional hoops and finances?
All right. And I think staff is best equipped to answer that question.
Yes, that's a great question. So if they come in within the next 2 years and meet all of the criteria, there won't be an additional planning fee. They'll be able to have an ordinance brought to city council, approved, and move forward. The place where it might diverge with the fees is the next steps. So the next steps are to get the water environment services, Tri-City annexation. I don't know that they'll allow them to move forward without a city annexation. The wording is complicated. Sometimes it says you have to be applied for city annexation, and sometimes it says approved for city annexation. So if you're ready to move forward and get that piece done, you may have to diverge, and then they pay separately when they're ready to do that.
Okay.
That also goes with the engineering plans. If they're part of it and ready to have their extension and you're all splitting that cost, that's totally up to you how you do that. Or if they're not going to be able to meet it and the two of you just want to move forward. So it's the next steps that where it diverges. There won't be more planning fees if they are able to come in the next 2 years.
Okay.
This gives them you're in the door, you've paid all your initial fees, you've met the criteria with the conditions. If you meet the conditions, you can get the ordinance that says, yep, you passed the city requirements.
Okay. So if they for example, even were able to move those before the next city council meeting, this could get streamlined.
Well, we would need a little time on the city end to do that.
Okay.
And I think Chief Schmerber has something to say as well.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the annex boxes. That's just not the only violation. And so there's multiple violations on there. In fact, 3. One is the annex boxes. The other one is the junk removal that's in the driveway along the side, and plus the vegetation. Plus, I learned there are peacocks in the backyard, which is another now violation.
Yeah.
So everything would have to be removed, and they would have to voluntarily relocate those peacocks.
Okay. Yeah, I assumed that we're not zoned for peacocks, which I've known for a while. But you don't want to rock the boat when you want to dig a trench in their yard.
So with that knowledge, say all of that happens in 90 days, we would still need, at least 30 days from the city side to review it, make a determination, write the ordinance, have it brought to council. So it wouldn't be an instant by next council meeting we can do it, but it wouldn't be something we would, take a lot of time to do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
My experience is that they are not particularly savvy with doing paperwork and those other things. And I've stepped in and done paperwork for them. But if they have a timeline and we can light a fire under it, it'd be nice, because then the momentum that we already have can carry them through without additional tasks they may not be equipped to make decisions on.
As I understand it from watching the Planning Commission work on this, one of the other issues is that Clackamas County is trying to get people away from having septic systems. And if something came up to where one needed to be repaired or changed, it might be difficult, if not impossible, to get approval from the county for changes. So if the best thing going forward for these properties is to get in a sewer system, and that's where the timing, because if your septic system fails before you're able to connect to the sewer system, that'd be a real difficult situation to be in.
That is my understanding as well, Mayor Milch, that the county is not issuing septic permits to upgrade systems or rebuild systems, that they're really forcing property owners to connect to public systems.
And I also understand that the neighboring homeowners are trying to assist this one homeowner who has some compliance issues to get into compliance.
Correct.
So cutting down weeds, things like that. This is not something that a single elderly person may be able to do on their own, but you're offering some help.
Yeah, the vegetation really isn't an issue that I've seen. I can look in their backyard from my backyard, but definitely like the junk removal, the shipping containers, and then our dear peacock friends.
Okay.
There's a what?
There's a park that takes peacock.
Oh, that would be lovely if you can think of.
Hornings Hideaway, Hornings Hideout.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might give them a buzz.
Any other questions for the person
I
providing?
was just going to say, are there any community that the council or the city is aware of, community organizations that can assist somebody who's elderly with, I'm assuming, mobility issues, but
We do have an organization that formed for that very purpose, and a couple of its members are actually here in the audience tonight. So yes, the members of the neighbors and other community members, that is a resource that is available.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I also, between Ross and I, we also know the history of the sewer. It was supposed to actually come up when it was put in to our houses, but it was locally blocked by lack of easement because of one person who didn't want it and didn't want to give it to the other people up the line 30 years ago. So it was made to have our houses on it. So that hub is there just waiting to be tapped into with individual lines from each house coming down to it. Yeah, politics. That's why we want to get it done all at once.
Well, I appreciate you sharing a little bit more of that information so we kind of understand why we're in the situation we're in and some of the complexities of this individual situation. But I think, yes, Councilor Huckabee, you have a question or?
I don't have a question. Just Annalise, thank you for helping and looking out for your neighbors, both of you.
You're welcome. Thanks. And one thing you might also think about eventually is that whole area, especially as where people are forced to get on sewer, is going to be a patchwork because there are neighbors who are on the city's sewer that are in unincorporated county. And so there's a lot of like weirdness in there. It might behoove everybody just to make it part of the city at some point.
All right, we'll keep that in mind. Yeah, annexation is just not bringing properties into the city, it's taking them out of other districts.
Yeah.
And, as you talked about the timing and the cost, I don't know if there's a cost for filing the paperwork with the county to make those changes. But if that cost goes up next year, it might cost this one homeowner a little bit more to make that change.
Yeah.
If they're not all done at the same time. But
It all costs money.
yes,
I
you're discovering there are a lot of fees and
There are a lot of fees.
But,
We haven't
hopefully-
even gotten to the construction part. And
hopefully the
they were-
benefits of being the part of this city and especially being part of its sewer system will outweigh all the.
Well, sewer's a big thing.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Now we have some time to discuss among ourselves. I don't see any more, so I'm going to close the public hearing on this. And now we have time as a council to deliberate on our decision. Any thoughts? Any questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I
And
make
it's
a
on the
motion.
screen there, in case you,
Oh, is it not the same one as here?
it may be, yes.
Okay, I make a motion to approve ordinance 1542, approving the annexation of 17560 and 17580 Kirkwood Road into the city of Gladstone at this time and approving the annexation of 17620 Kirkwood Road within the next 2 years if all city standards are met.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by Counselor Huckabee and Counselor Corbett respectively. Any further discussion? All right, I hope that motion in its form is correct. We're giving our approval, which allows them to go forward with some assurance that the council is already approving subject to conditions. And it's not that two of the homes come in with no conditions and one has some. It's that all of them have a whole list of things that have to be done, but one of them has just a little more to bring it into compliance.
Yes, that's correct.
All
And,
right.
and that is written in the ordinance as well.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion? Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion passes 6-0. The ordinance adopted unanimously, therefore we don't need to vote on it again. So that's taken care of. Next, item 10 is to consider the approval of a professional services contract between the city and Brown and Caldwell, BC, and agree to a contract for NPDES MS4 permit renewal. I'll ask staff to translate all that for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, so NPDES MS4 is the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. And so the agenda item here is to consider approval of the professional services contract between the city of Gladstone and Brown and Caldwell and agree to contract for the NPDES MS4 permit renewal application and stormwater support services through the end of 2026. And that's to support the whole permitting that we need. A little bit of history and background. In the early 1990s, the Federal Clean Water Act required municipalities and populations greater than 100,000 to apply and obtain for this permit. Therefore, in Oregon, this program was delegated to the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ. As a result, DEQ directed 6 Oregon jurisdictions and associated co-permittees. One of those jurisdictions became Clackamas County, and then Gladstone is one of the 13 co-permittees of Clackamas County's NPDES MS4 permit. Per Clackamas County's permit, the co-permittees are both individually and collectively responsible for meeting the same permit requirements as other individual Phase 1 jurisdictions. Therefore, Clackamas County co-permittees coordinate cost-shared efforts through IGAs and comprehensive programs to meet individual and collective permit requirements. Efforts include the development and implementation of comprehensive stormwater monitoring, plan implementation of consistent erosion control standards, post-construction site runoff standards, public outreach and education, and permit renewal application items. The Clackamas County Co-Permittee Group and City of Gladstone have contracted with Brown and Caldwell since 2010 to facilitate the above services. So the proposal is to approve the proposed professional services contract between City of Gladstone and Brown and Caldwell for the NPDES MS4 permit renewal application and stormwater support services in order to ensure that this permit, NPDES MS4 compliance, water quality, and continued collaboration and cost sharing with Clackamas County Co-Permittee Group continues. There's a cost impact. The professional services contract for this NPDES MS4 permit renewal application and stormwater support services between City of Gladstone and Brown Caldwell is a commitment through December of 2026, and with a total effort fee up to $81,692. Invoicing will be provided monthly by Brown and Caldwell, and funding will come out of contractual and professional services funds from the Stormwater 2025-2027 budget. So the staff recommendation action is to that the City Council approve the professional services contract between City of Gladstone and Brown and Caldwell to ensure the NPDES MS4 permit compliance, water quality, and continued collaboration and cost sharing with Clackamas County Co-Permittee Group continues.
All right, thank you. Sometimes when we get a request to approve a contract like this, it's something we've put out for bids by various providers. But I think in this case, because this is a renewal of something that's been going on, and we are part of a co-permittee group and not just the city itself, we didn't have the choice in the selection of the company to do it. Is
Yes,
that
I would
correct?
agree. Yes.
Okay. All right, so it's a little different than what we usually see, but this will get us on board with all the other entities that are involved in this.
That's correct.
Are there any questions from members of the council? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Councilor Garlington.
I make a motion to approve the professional services contract between the city of Gladstone and Brown and Caldwell and agree to contract for NPDES MS4 permit renewal application and stormwater support services in order to ensure NPDES MS4 permit compliance, water quality, and continued collaboration and cost sharing with the Clackamas County co-permittee group.
Okay, so across the county, there are other entities voting on this as well, and this is our opportunity to be among them. Councilor Garlington made the motion. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Councilor Mitchell has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All right, Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion passes 6-0, so the contract is approved. We move to item 11. This is approval of local 350-03 AFSCME and City of Gladstone Collective Bargaining Agreement 2025 to 2027. Our city attorney, Chad Jacobs, is here tonight, substituting for Ashley Driscoll, who represented us, and we have other members of our negotiation team here tonight. So staff, can you present for us then?
I'm happy to give you an overview. As you know, we have represented employees, and as the mayor said, this is our local 350-03 AFSCME members. The city's negotiation team was our city attorney, our public works director, and our IT manager, primarily because at the time he was the acting public works director, and we have many represented employees in the public works department. And then the AFSCME negotiations team was their field representative, the local president, the vice president, and the city hall representative, and their steward, who is the public works representative. We began our negotiations in February, and we had several sessions. They were all in good faith. We had good conversations. We came to an agreement. In your packet, you will see a red-lined version. This is the same copy that the AFSCME employees voted on June 16th, and they agreed to it as well. So the next step in the process is to have the city council approve it, and then any of the economic impacts in this contract will be retroactive to July 1st of this year. It is a 2-year agreement. And if City Attorney Jacobs has anything else to add, I'll let him chime in.
No, that was a great summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the council has.
I'll ask one question. We adopted the budget committee recommended a budget, and the council adopted it prior to completion of the approval of this agreement. Are we still within our budgeted forecast for all the expenses related to personnel after adopting this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from members of the council? All right. The agreement here in the packet for members of the public included, as you say, a red line addition, which shows you where changes are from from original language, and then a clean version that summarizes everything. So if members of the public or employees want to see it, it's there, but we won't go over it in too much detail tonight. We thank the negotiations team, both our city representatives and the representatives of the union, for working together and coming to an agreement on this. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion. I make a motion to approve the local 350-03 AFSCME and City of Gladstone Collective Bargaining Agreement 2025-2027.
I second.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Huckabee and seconded by Councillor Blaug. Any further discussion? Okay, Tammy, call the roll, please.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Blau. Yes. Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion is approved 6-0. We will now adjourn as the Gladstone City Council and reconvene as the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency. And we have two items on the agenda. One is approval of the minutes from our June 24th, 2025 Urban Renewal Agency meeting. That was the meeting where we adopted the Urban Renewal Agency budget. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Huckabee and seconded by Councillor Garlington. All those in favor, or let's go ahead and call the roll, please.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Blau. Yes. Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. Minutes are approved. I had to look back on the timing. I always forget because we had so much turnover. Councillor Corbett, you were present at that meeting, so very good. Good to know. One of your first, I think. All right, so the next item for the Urban Renewal Agency is a resolution to amend a resolution we made earlier. So staff, if you could present for us, please.
I would be happy to. And to try to simplify this, we checked the wrong box when we submitted the form to the county assessor's office. So when we adopted the budget in June, we sent in the form and they came back and said, oh, wait, you now have to mark a different box because this past year we made a big change to our plan. Remember, we added about 21.5 acres. And because of a state rule that went into effect in 2019, when you change your plan, the plan gets a new name. So it's now called a permanent plan. But I want to be clear that it still means that we divide the taxes in urban renewal. So what that means is that we have to submit an updated UR50 form. And instead of checking option 1, which is what we submitted, we have to check option 5, which is permanent rate plans. So we did get an extension from the county assessor's office. I also want to be clear that our budget still remains the same as adopted on June 24th, which was $6,804,447. We are just changing what our plan is now labeled on the form.
Thank you. Any questions? Is that clear to everyone?
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Garland.
So this does not change the sunset date of the urban renewal district?
It has nothing to do with the sunset.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
I can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
I move to adopt resolution UR-74, amending UR-73 to reflect the change of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency to a permanent plan per ORS 457.01011B.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councillor Blaug made the motion. Councillor Huckabee seconded it. Any further discussion? Thank you to the state officials for bringing this to our attention and to staff for preparing the appropriate amendment. Let's take a vote. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. So the motion passes 6-0, and we are adjourned as an urban renewal agency, and we will go back to being a city council. And the next item is a report from me, and I'm just bringing it up on my pad. So the next item, back on July 25th and 26th, City Administrator Betts and I both attended the annual C4 retreat along with several mayors and city councilors from other nearby cities, both in the urban and rural areas of Clackamas County. Several county administrators, county commissioners were there, and staffs of local cities and county. We had a number of presentations on a variety of issues, primarily related on the first day to housing and on the second day to transportation issues. And I want to say it was a valuable sharing of information. It's one of those times when we really feel like we're working together as a county in cooperation with one another on some of the issues that affect cities regionally. So I was glad I went. I'm happy to provide a summary and answer any questions about things that we talked about. The county is required each year to do what's called a point in time count of people who are living unsheltered in the month of January, one particular night of the year across the country that's measured. And while it's not a perfect count because of a variety of things, it does help to show trends. And one of the things that we could see was that there was a slight increase in the number of people unhoused, unsheltered, and many of them among those who saw an increase were older adults. So it's one of those things where the county is looking at the programs that they offer and the services provided to individuals through cities and through county programs, and really seeing where we need to make some changes that will address where we see these trends in the population. And then we had a good presentation regarding the housing needs in our rural communities and really strategizing a different approach to addressing homelessness by people who live in areas like Malala and Estacada. We had representatives from city administrators from those cities attending, or Canby, I think was it Canby or
Estacada and Malala.
Estacada and Malala,
Yeah.
those two. I forget all the cities. Some of the cities are so densely populated in their downtown areas, like Sandy, when you drive through on the way to the mountains, it feels like an urban city because of how it's located, but we associate it's outside the urban growth boundary of Metro, so we consider it a rural city. But it was very interesting, the observations they made about, when we think of homelessness in the Portland metro area, we think of people camping in little congregate groups in the urban near parks and businesses and other things. And in the rural areas, they find it's a different situation. It's people who maybe don't want to be seen and who are kind of on their own and out of sight, but still struggling to get by, yet they don't have all the resources they need. And so the approach to addressing that issue is different in rural communities than it is in urban communities. And it's good that the county sees and recognizes those differences and is really strategizing an approach that is specific to rural communities. And then we had more on the urban side. We had a look at representatives of cities talking about strategies for developing housing, having more housing, increasing the supply, which will hopefully decrease the cost of housing to those in need in cities. And a lot of that is with so-called middle housing that's between the size of a huge apartment and the size of a single family home, but things like duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes that can be built in what at one time were single family home neighborhoods, but might have room for housing more people in smaller units and therefore ideally more affordable. So we heard from cities that have developed strategies to do that and some of their experiences. We heard from a state legislator who talked about the various bills that the state legislature looked at and approved, and some of they didn't approve that related to housing and infrastructure support and permitting, streamlining the permitting process and other things that were designed to help make more housing get built. And then we talked a lot about, the second day, we talked a lot about transit and transportation and how a lot of us have strong feelings about the importance of transit, but many of us who were present in a group like that don't really use public transit that much ourselves. But because we don't use it, we have a little bit of insight into why we don't and what would make it easier for us to use. And that a lot of that is, you know, the right size vehicles, the timing, the frequency, the safety. So those factors we brainstormed and stuck a lot of little green dots on things that we agreed with. And it helped us again to come up with some good consensus on how to address these issues as a county going forward. Some of our slightly farther away from downtown Portland communities in Clackamas County, like Sandy, like Canby, like Wilsonville, have their own transit system. They have buses and shuttles and other things that help their residents because they're not as closely connected to the TriMet system as we are here in Gladstone and some of the closer in cities are. And so looking at that and looking at the way the state funds those other non-TriMet transit authorities is another issue for us to kind of come together on as a county and try to advocate for getting more money. You know, we used to have, when our Gladstone City Hall was located at the corner of Portland Avenue in Dartmouth, there were 2 or 3 buses that went within a block or 2 of there. And if you lost your driver's license because of some traffic ticket and you had to come to court, you could take the bus to get to court. Well, I come here on Mondays when we've got traffic court, and I don't know how these defendants are getting here, but I know that some of them are maybe driving under a suspended license because we don't have easy public transit access to one of the most important buildings in our city. And so, you know, and as we have new buildings going in and zoning changes that enables things to be built without requiring minimum parking requirements, we may have people who need to rely more on some kind of a public transit. And whether it's a local shuttle that we could do here in Gladstone or different routes of what we get, service we get from TriMet, these are things we have to think about as a community if we want to make sure that people who cannot drive for one reason or another, you know, and that includes children, teens that are not driving, people who, because of physical disability, maybe are not driving, or vision. We need to provide alternatives for them. And so the county takes these issues very seriously. And when we come together as a group like that, we form good relationships. We listen to one another. We learn things from each other. People bring different levels of expertise to these issues. And then as we move forward through the year, we can really design our agenda at C4 around helping to address some of these things. So do you all have any questions about what we did or where we're going on this? Councillor Blaug.
Is there literature or synopsis from this that you would be able to forward to those of us who are interested?
Yes, we did an event summary, and I can forward that to Administrator Betts and have her send it to you. It'll be a little bit more detailed than what I was able to say, but it'll show you who all was there. And this is one of those events where we are able to bring city councilors who do not normally attend C4. And in recent years, we have not had anybody besides me there, but I know that many of you have attended other groups that do a similar function, that bring together leaders from different cities to learn from one another, to have conference presentations and other things. So as we move forward, maybe next year someone else will be interested, and maybe those of us who haven't yet attended some of the LOC events or other events will be able to get to those too. But This is a job where a lot of it is kind of on the job learning, and these are the kind of events that give us those opportunities to learn. So I'm grateful to the city for allowing me to attend, and for Administrator Betts to going along and taking good notes and keeping us informed on what our neighbors are doing.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I was wondering, so in the discussion about, I know that the transportation and the busing systems in rural areas. So for us, we don't have that as a budget item, but for a city like Sandy or Estacada, it's a major part of their budget, how they're going to fund and get grants in and get other things in to make that happen. What are things that you heard in those areas that maybe give you hope that all of that will continue? I know that there's been a lot of discussion about TriMet needs to learn to share their funding a little bit more. And so where do you feel like that conversation is going for all those areas?
Well, some of the funds that are collected by the state for this purposes then are distributed to agencies, and there are identified agencies. I can't remember the exact term for it, but TriMet is the group that gets the money directly, and then it redistributes it to some of these smaller transit things. The formula for how much each one gets, there is some disagreement among cities as to how that's done, because as post-pandemic, a lot more people are working from home and not driving to a job where their business, a location outside their own city. But some of the funding allocation was based on where people work rather than where they live. And if people are using transit more in the areas where they live and not just using transit to get to an area where they work, then the weighting of how those dollars are distributed might be time for an adjustment to that. It's not that TriMet isn't sharing, it's that TriMet gets all the funds and then has to distribute some of it to some of the smaller jurisdictions that have their own service. But if the allocation were different, it would provide stronger support to those smaller systems. Some of those systems operate with no fares at all. They're able to take people within their city to a lot of the main locations that people have. In the city of Wilsonville, for example, there's an area where you really can't get to the rest of the city without getting on the I-5 and going over a bridge that takes you back into Wilsonville. But the buses help people get around. And some of those buses from other cities like Sandy and Wilsonville are looking for ways to get on the freeways and travel to, for example, Clackamas Town Center, where people then can get on the MAX and then take TriMet provided transit to other areas in the Portland metro area. So it's local within the city transportation. It's also planning for intercity transportation. And it's a system that it's good that as C4, we're looking at it collectively rather than just saying, well, Canby, you're on your own. Sandy, you're on your own. We're kind of saying, what can we do collectively? How can we strategize for a way that will really help all of these cities with these very efficient local transit systems that are doing quite a bit with the little money they have?
Yeah. I love the conversation. Good on you guys.
Thank you. All right, I think that was it for our main agenda items. We do have our planning calendar in the agenda, so you can take a look at that for future meeting agenda items. We don't have any business carry forward that I'm aware of. Did anyone request to provide business from the audience?
I have not received any requests.
Okay. And no one on the phone is raising their hand or online or anything like that?
They are not.
All right. Okay, so we will do business from the council. Tonight, I'll start at my left with Councilor Garnington and work our way down the road.
I'm just going to highlight a little bit about the festival. I thought it was a great event. I don't know if it was that last year it was so hot that it may have driven away some people, but it was a great day. I had the honor of spending the day with my friend Nancy Eichstead, where we sold some fruit trees. So there's a half a dozen or so people in Gladstone who now have fruit trees in their yard. So I like that sustainability in people's yards. So that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of conversations, we did, I should say, about wanting the festival to go forward. I had forwarded that and some names to Administrator Betts. It was a great day. Everybody that was there was so happy. The pickleball courts were full. People were eating. People were in and out of the beer garden. And I'm telling you, when they started calling those bingo numbers, the people were in the bingo tent. It made a beeline for the bingo tent. It was just a great day overall. Lots of happy faces, lots of happy kids, and a very packed park. So it was a good day. And I'm thrilled that the city is agreeing to and happy to help keep that festival moving forward. I remember when there were rides down at John Wetton Field, and we'd spend 3 days and a lot of money down there putting our kids on those rides. And I know it's smaller, I know it's less, but it still brings the community together, and it's important. And for, the 5 people that are out there maybe watching and the few people that we have left in our audience, I want people to know that it is important to me that we continue with that tradition.
Thank you. Councilor Corbett.
I'll second what you said. I think it is an important festival to continue. It's been going since I was a kid, of course, different naming convention, but and then also I want to thank Ralph for all the work that he does on the multi-class reunion every year. That's a great time for us that grew up in Gladstone to get together with folks that we haven't seen in years. And it's just interesting, I don't go every year, but every year I've gone, I'm seeing a new face that I haven't seen in 10, 20, 30 years, So it's just a great event. And I do hope that we can continue. I'm excited to hear that we are, or doing our best to continue that. So that sums it up for me.
Thank you. Councilor Blaug.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Bob Everett and Bryce Colson and Rotary for the festival. As always, so much fun. And then let's see what else. A bunch of us were at the Pump House open house, and that was very interesting. So you don't really think about where your sewer goes once you take it out of the house. So that was neat. A couple of announcements. Our U.S. Representative Janelle Bynum is having an open house August 25th in Malala, which they've also, for local leaders, if you want to meet with Janelle, that is also available. And Oregon City Pride is on September 6th at Clackamas Community College. That's everything I have.
Thank you. Councilor Mitchell.
This is National Wellness Month, dedicated to promoting self-care, physical, mental, and emotional health. So be sure to take care of yourselves and those around you. The community center is having a free clothing exchange on August 22nd from noon to 4 p.m. and also on August 23rd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Starting August 16th, the Oak Lodge Library will be closed to move into its new building, and that will be opening in early October.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Have you been to a clothing exchange, and how does that work for people?
So you can bring gently used, good condition clothing to donate at the event, and then you are allowed to take clothing as well. I've attended the past couple of years they've done it, and it's been, from what I can see, a pretty successful. People love the event from what I've seen.
So they can bring their clothes on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Huckabee.
Thank you. I'll touch on the festival as well. I just want to say that I don't think there's anybody up here on this dais that is not interested in seeing this community festival move forward. I think we're all committed to that, however it looks in the future, and working with city staff to do so. It was a nice day. I took my daughter, well, went with my daughter. I guess I don't take her anywhere. And it was a good time, but I have to say the highlight of that weekend was the car show. For me, it was amazing. It stretched from Ipswich all the way down to Arlington. And these were like tightly spaced cars. It was amazing. I had a really good time. And the amount of attendees there was really, really high as well. Let's see. The LOC DEIA committee is going to start gearing up soon. We've had one meeting so far this year, so we'll start to increase, I think, next month. Our LEDIC, which is Leaders for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council, that Councilor Blaug and I are going to start meeting again next month. And let's see. My last thing is just the weather is really, really hot, everybody. So please think about your doggy's paw pads on the hot concrete. Thank you.
I attended as the liaison to the school board, their meeting last week. And when it came time at the end of their meeting for each of the individual board members to share something like we do here, almost to a person, they shared positive comments about the festival and the parade and that. So it really is an event that has come to represent something about the values of this community and the importance of community and being with each other. The history, depending on where you want to start it, and some people go all the way back to Chautauqua, in the early part of this century or the last century, and take it over 100 years. It certainly has changed over the years, yet there has always been something around that time of the year that has brought community together and helped with relationships and helped, shape and preserve the identity of this community. So I'm glad that we are, starting in plenty of time to transition again to what we'll do next year. I also was approached by vendors who said, hey, you tweak the little things every year and some things make it better and some things, maybe it wasn't, but they liked, it was a little simpler this year, having most of the booths on Saturday only rather than Friday and Saturday. So that may be a tweak that we want to preserve going forward. But I think you're right. I think the all-class reunion, the car show, the parade, all these things all in one weekend give people a very predictable, traditional way to come together. And it's a kind of, you don't mess with tradition. It's a kind of thing we really need to find a way to preserve as closely as possible to what it's been. So we'll be listening for community input on that. Way back in January, I think I commented at this meeting about an article I'd read online about people not really being as connected to one another as they were, that maybe COVID sort of changed our willingness to get out of our houses and connect with other people, and how we kind of have to take some action as a community to try to facilitate those kinds of relationships. Well, the festival certainly is an event that does that. I saw families there. I saw kids on the inflatables. I saw business owners that weren't there to make a lot of money, but were just kind of getting their name out there to say, I'm part of this community too. I'm here to support you. I'm here to give to this event as I've done several years in a row because it means a lot to this community. And I want to be sure that that it happens. So I think when we have that kind of support from local businesses and the support from the community itself and volunteers, it's good for the city. So I think that's all I have for tonight. Is someone ready to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Huckabee, seconded by Councilor Garlington. Tammy, call the roll, please.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Milch,
Yes, we are adjourned at 7:52 PM.